Now, time to talk property, thanks to our partners Gardner. The building sector is showing signs of stabilising after years of disruption. This is following the double-digit growth of the last few years, largely driven by COVID. Building costs recorded their slowest annual growth rate on record, just 0.9% over the last 12 months. So this is obviously going to be good for those who are wanting to build. Grant Porteous is Managing Director of Gardner and is with me this morning. Grant, good morning.
Good morning, Ron. How are you?
Good, thank you. Good to have you here. During COVID, we did have that, building prices, the cost of materials shoot up. But generally, are prices quite stable when it comes to materials?
Well, I think if you put COVID to one side and all the challenges that it had, our industry is normally very stable in that situation. We're often maligned, but our supply chain is a very intricate and very competitive supply chain in New Zealand, with many world-class manufacturers that we're lucky to have. And I think the thing is we need to support them. But certainly, New Zealanders now can look for that stability again. It's a great time to build a new home for a variety of reasons. I think the thing that people lose sight of is the cost of building homes in New Zealand isn't our supply chain and the issues there, or our manufacturers. It's more around bureaucracy, red tape, no councils, to be honest. I'd honestly say MB at times have an overreach into the building code and do things that don't add a lot of value to the end customer, but certainly drive building costs up. That's my take on it for what it's worth.
Yeah, and the government says they're doing stuff about this to try and alleviate some of those cost pressures, and hopefully that will have some impact, but it's going to obviously take a little while before we see that. What about, you mentioned that now's a good time to build. What are the reasons for that?
Well, as you've touched on, building prices have stabilised, but good builders were always able to offer that certainty, excluding COVID that did bring some challenges, but we could manage those to a degree. But you've got a high level of good builders available, ready to build your home, and it's a good time to go to market. Land prices have come back a bit, and as I often say to people, if you look at the industry and housing in general, both existing housing, very rarely would we have this price correction that we've had. Normally, you'll never build cheaper than you will today. It's only going to become more expensive over time. And despite this price stability, we're pushing back currently on some of the supply chain because we do have some comfortable duopolies in supply that are wanting to put prices up. And I'll be honest, one of those is Carter Holt Harvey with timber, and we're saying no. The consumer can't sustain it at this moment. We don't see that your input costs will increase, and you need to hold your pricing for the good of New Zealanders and our industry at this time.
What's their response to that been like?
Well, at the moment we're waiting for that response. It's a live debate and negotiation. But I think all builders need to have the confidence to challenge any suppliers. What are these input costs that have gone up? You're saying input costs are up. Well, fuel prices are down. Shipping prices are down. And in fact, we've seen some of our very good suppliers actually reduce prices recently for those reasons. APL, our premium window supplier in New Zealand, have just reduced their pricing to us because aluminium's come down in price to them. Brickworks and so forth have brought their pricing down because shipping costs are down. So, we don't just accept. And what I would say to consumers as well is when you're working with your builder, the builder you choose, be informed, ask the hard questions. It's your biggest purchase often in your life and your family sits on it. Yet we know people spend more time researching the TV they're going to buy than the builder they choose. And if you need help, look, we have on our website a booklet available called Home Prep. It's not about trying to sell us to you. It's about informing consumers of the questions they need to ask to ensure they're getting the right builder and the right contract terms, if that makes sense. And that's something I always talk about. The price you pay, the invoice price you pay for goods, or the contract price you might pay for an existing or an old home, or even a new home, is not necessarily the true cost of that home. You need to understand its lifestyle costing. Is there any hidden little gems in there that could cost you more? And be prepared to do that bit of homework.
Yeah, well, I can attest, I'm one that fell for that trick because we bought an old, drafty, it's going home at the moment is like walking into a freezer. And the thing that I was thinking about this yesterday, if I could have my time again, would have gone for a brand new house if we could have. I'm probably not ideal in the location that we are, but those are the kinds of longer term things you don't necessarily think about with whether you go new build or whether you go existing.
And look, there's a lot of decisions with that, and we are always cognizant of the fact that our biggest competitor, if we'd call it that, is existing housing. But it's wrong just to compare existing housing prices with new housing prices because they're just so different in their performance. And that's something, you know, astute buyers will understand. So new homes are better insulated, they're better performing in their heating and cooling systems if they're built well, and those things are allowed for. And it's the life cycle costing again of the materials that really hurts you. But even in new housing, you need to be careful of that you're not putting expensive cedar up on a second or third story that's going to need to be stained every year. So they're all the things that we try to work with our customers on. But yeah, back to my point, you know, we do have a really good supply chain in New Zealand. I'd like to assure your listeners it is a competitive supply chain. Yes, we have one or two comfortable monopolies or duopolies, but they work pretty hard and we need those companies to be successful. New Zealand can't afford to rely on overseas suppliers and manufacturers of our products because we're such a small market, and when their markets gets busy, they don't care about us at all.
Hey, great to have you on the program. Thanks so much for coming in this morning.
Appreciate the time. Thank you.
That is Managing Director of GJ Gardner, Grant Porteous.